Hi, I'm Peter Birch and welcome to this week's show where it's all about the rough-scaled python, a unique python species to Australia. Welcome to CrittaCam. Today's show is all about these beautiful pythons, the rough-scaled pythons. Some people know them by their scientific name, the Morelia carinata. A very interesting name. It actually refers to their scales. They actually have these keeled scales that run all the way down the body, giving them this rough feel to them, hence the common name, the rough-scaled python. Not much is really known about these animals' true ecology out in the bush. But man, I tell you what, as a captive animal, we know so much. So much is gained just by breeding these animals in captivity. Who would think that all these animals that exist, not only in Australian captivity, but also all across the world in zoos and other private collections, came from 10 animals that were collected from the wild. That alone is pretty amazing. And believe it or not, we're getting so close to its 15th year anniversary since these animals made it into captivity. That's right, 15 short years, gone from an animal that was basically extinct into an animal now that is fairly popular amongst the hobbyists here in Australia. That is pretty damn cool. How could you not fall in love with these big, steely blue eyes? They are absolutely gorgeous. Oh, looking deep into them, you cannot help but fall in love with this beautiful animal. Those rough scales are really something completely different to every other Australian python. And that big, chunky head, I mean, look at that thing. A lot of muscle. It's built for grabbing weird-sized prey items. And I mean, it's believed that because they have long teeth, just like a chondro python or the green tree pythons, that these guys would typically eat things like birds that have a lot of feathers, you know, to get through that feather laying, to add a laying deep down into the tissue to be able to grab hold of something and then be able to pull it in and constrict it. You're definitely going to need some long teeth. And these guys have got very good body strength. They're very powerful, very adept to climbing. And I mean, a lot of people say they can be snappy, but this guy here is just an absolute dream to work with, aren't you, buddy? Who would believe these beautiful creatures have such a restricted distribution? And in fact, they have the smallest distribution of any Australian snake. They basically inhabit a very small area in northwestern the Kimberleys, up in WA. They live in the monsoonal rainforests, inhabiting caves, treetops, and they also live in the crevices looking for food. They're a nocturnal species. Typical will be by looking at that elliptical eye, you can tell that's a nocturnal species as such, hunting for food, feeding on a variety of animals. But not many people really know exactly what their natural diet is. But in captivity, these things love eating mice, rats, even birds like quails and chickens. They typically average around about 2 meters in length. This guy's a little bit further on than that, but he's a mature male. And like we said before about captive conditions, these guys thrive. Well, let's go and check out a few of them right now. Here we are in a captive situation. I basically keep these guys exactly the same as I keep my carpet pythons. A nice sized enclosure, water bowl, a hide box, and heat. I mean, that temperature that they require is about 32 to 34 degrees under the spotlight, with a nice ability to get away from the heat. And I mean, these guys like it cool too during the winter, so getting down to about 18 degrees Celsius is really good for cycling. I mean, being pretty successful in breeding these guys just by putting the male in with the female around August. They start copulating. They don't really do any spurring as such or tail waggling, but we've produced some pretty cool babies. Let's have a closer look at some of these babies and some of the year-old stuff. They're gorgeous too. So basically the babies and the year-olds I keep in the same way as I keep all my other hatchlings. I keep them in these small 5-litre tubs. It enables the temperatures to be maintained pretty good. Here's a beautiful year-old little rough-scaled python. Typically they can be a little bit more feisty when they're smaller, but they're an absolute gorgeous animal to work with. Easy, compact. And I mean, this guy's getting at the size now where he needs to move up to the next size enclosure, making sure that you have everything inside that cage that they need, being water and the ability to thermoregulate. There again, they can get to the back of the box, get to about 34 degrees Celsius. They can move to the front of the box, getting to about 30 degrees Celsius. So it still enables them to be able to do what they need to do. Here's one of the beautiful little hatchlings we produced this year. The only difference is we put something on there for them to climb on to help shed their skin when they're so small. And I mean, they are tiny little gorgeous creatures. Look at this. And like I said, they can be a little bit feisty. But typically what they'll do when they're a little bit more feisty like this at a smaller age is they'll defecate all over you. It's a little bit smelly, But man, it's all worth it. It's so damn cute. You can't help to see that pattern starts off so dark, and as it gets closer to the tail, it starts to get lighter and lighter. It's almost though that the background colour switches over from the patches, and the patches switch over to the background colour from the head to the tail. A little bit confusing, but when you look at the body and the coloration, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. What a little beauty. And at this size here, they take fuzzy mice straight off the bat. If you have a little problem getting them going, you might need to use a bit of feathers or bird down just to give it a little bit of a scent, to stir them up and get them into that feeding response. Gorgeous little critters. How could you not fall in love with this beautiful species of python? And luckily enough, it was found, brought back into captivity, and now absolutely thrives. Man, tell me what you guys think about this beautiful creature in the comments below. Hit me up on Facebook and Twitter. Till next time, you've been watching CrittaCam.